All right, hi. I am Colby. I am CoDameron. I am the coach of the Boca Raton Bellibolts, and I am here from my post-season 9 wrap-up, where we talk about how the season went. We kind of go over some of our games, kind of remember the good times, remember all the bad beats, and talk about how this team felt, how it performed, what exceeded expectations, what didn't quite match up to expectations, and just kind of, give the team a good send-off. I've got a nice slideshow here. I want to go through and just kind of give my thoughts on this team overall, the Boca Raton Bellibolts for season 9 of the VBL. Where's my mouse? Here's my mouse. Okay. I bring up this slide. We did a post-draft pre-season analysis. Very similar slideshow where we talked about, well, now that we had the team, here's what we're going to do with it. Here's what I built the team to do. I wanted it to have diversification of threats. I wanted it to have versatility in some of the mons, and there was a do you believe factor. And I want to talk about, did that come to fruition? I think absolutely. I think that throughout the course of the team, these were the core principles of what I wanted in a VBL draft team. 11 mons, ended up being 12 with Gatorita. What can we threaten? And I think that, yes, we had a super diverse threat pool in our team. We had a very wide draft. We had a very scary set of 11 mons. No one quite knew what I was going to bring every week. I think that was fantastic. As we'll see once we get into the sets, versatility. We had a ton of versatility that we threatened in our sets. A great example is in week 2 against the Virginia Volts and the Jordan. We had both Poltergeist and Cloister. Well, are they both going to shell smash? What's going to happen? We had a lot of mons that ran different items all the time. I think Salamence actually ran a different item every single week. He was mixed, he was offensive, he was defensive, he was physical, he was special. Versatility, A+ on some of these mons. And then the do you believe factor. We're going to talk about which Pokemon really exceeded expectations and which Pokemon fell kind of short. Wo-Chien being kind of the case study for this team. I really wanted to believe in Wo-Chien. I did believe in him at the start of the season, and because every single week someone brought Terra Grass to stop him, or I didn't feel like he could really host an endgame on a team that actually, maybe it was my playstyle, maybe it was the team, I wanted to go a little bit faster than Wo-Chien was really going to give me the room in the endgame for. Wo-Chien ended up falling off a little bit on my do you believe scale. Whereas Bellibolt, I believed in Bellibolt from the start, and I played him like I believed in him. I may have let Wo-Chien down a little bit. I know that Poppin in the special conference ran a very dedicated Wo-Chien team with both Skeledirge and Glamora. And I know that I mentioned this on my third pick. Even here, you can see that my third pick was Bellibolt. When I was drafting, I had the option to go Skeledirge, Bellibolt, or Glamora. And Bellibolt was the third best option, and I picked Bellibolt because I believed, and as we'll see, I did a lot of Bellibolt things this season. Again, we'll have this team here nicely for reference in the corner. So let's go by the matchups week by week. I have this, I have all of my videos recorded, all of my matchups recorded on my YouTube channel. I have a nice number of subscribers, which I thank everyone for. I don't do it for the views. I do it for the cataloging. I love watching myself think. I love remembering watching myself think. How did I improve over this season? What fun did I have? What crazy scenarios did I get myself into? The way that you make a community grow is you make videos and you put them online. And I am super duper happy to have found a community that is excited to regularly record and put videos online, and who is excited to have me be a part of that community. Case in point, here's a video we're making it on a Saturday because this is the thing that I love to do. I love to be a part of the community and help grow this. VBL Draft League Season 9 was a great stepping stone in that world for me. Week 1. This was against Richweave. We'll see the opponent in these screenshots. And this was the 1 week where I brought Morgrem. Morgrem gets traded after week 3, but I used it actually pretty well. There was a lot of special threats. I remember Rich Weave, I think he made a trade halfway through the season or something, but I think that Rich Weave got a lot better with his play as the season went along, and neither of us were really super comfortable with our team yet. So I did a lot of default things. I did this Life Orb Scizor thing. I did this Booster Energy Speed Iron Moth. I did just a Choice Band Scizor into the Fire mode. All this made sense to me, and I think the matchup was pretty simple. I think this was done in 2 games. Oh, for those of you interested, there is a super duper master list in the description that goes through that has all of the links to the YouTube videos, the Pokemon Showdown replays, and the team pastes. If you want to watch back the history of any of these games, it's all available down below. The thing I remember from this game is this Mud Slap moment. I got hit. I was behind the light screen. I was Terra Dark, and I'm like, why did I just get hit with Mud Slap? What is this accuracy thing? And Rich Weave, after an analysis, I go, wait a second. I did the calcs. Minimum 12%. Mud Slap was designed to kill Iron Moth, and it's the only ground move that a Spothra gets. And then it gets the boost from being 20 power to up to 60 power from Terra Ground. All of this to say, he was ready for the Iron Moth, and I found every way to make it not die to the Mud Slap. It was a really cool moment to both see the tech come out and to get it blocked. Great set. Every set that I played this season was so great. You can see me very visibly having fun in all of these, even when I'm somewhat stressed out in some of them. Week 2, I took the L to Jordan. I lost this set in spectacular fashion. I was salty after this set. Fun fact: it's the only set of the season that I played with timer. I think I much prefer playing without timer because I really like playing, thinking and waiting and what else could I do? But this matchup came down to a couple of key moments. One of them was this hit right here. This was in game 2. I get this whole matchup was built around, if I can get the Fungus to Rage Powder and set up the Shell Smash, then I can run through his team. And I get this Icicle Spear, and he lives on 5%, which was a roll, and I'm like, if I'd only gotten a little luckier, I could have gotten that roll and won and beat up the Electric. Really, this was my own fault, because I switched in the Wo-Chien at this turn. This was me disrespecting my own team and not understanding the nuances of the Tablets of Ruin. I mean, I understood it, but ever since this game, I have been, starting at this game and going forward, I had to be much more conscious of when I brought in the Wo-Chien. Because if I want to be running physical attackers and I need to be doing my calcs, because I like making calcs that make sense and that get the numbers when they need to get there, I can't be bringing Wo-Chien in willy-nilly, or I might not get the kill. And this is exactly that moment where that happened. I go, Game 1 was excellent in that I think the Electric had a Flamethrower, which I calced. This Scizor was calced to live with the Assault Vest, the Flamethrower from the Electric, but it had chipped from the Garchomp, the Rough Skin. Garchomp didn't get a kill in this set, but he may as well have. And then game 2, first the Cloyster gets his Smash Up and I'm feeling good, and then the Cloyster doesn't get the kill and I'm feeling bad. I ended up going up 3-1, and all he had left was the Florges. And I'm like, yeah, this feels great. And then suddenly, he goes Terra Grass. He's Flower Veil, which means I can't reduce his stats. He's also Covert Cloak, so I further can't snarl his stats down. And he starts Calm Minding. And I go, wait a second. Fungus at one point in this prep was Toxic. Wouldn't have mattered against Flower Veil Grass. I didn't realize this works on yourself. Snarl can't break this. Leech Seed can't break this. And this Florges just Calm Minds up and beats me slowly. 3-0, kills 3 of my Mons, and I lose this set. And this was the first time that I realized that when I bring Rosetta and Safety First, the Wo-Chien and the Fungus together, well, I really have to have a plan for a Grass type. And this team I kind of didn't. I had, the Jelly Belly needed something, or the Icicle Spear. Once I lost this Icicle Spear, whenever I lost it. I think I lost it maybe to the Florges. No, I lost it to the eel on this turn, maybe to a discharge or something. But the point is, the way that I got checkmated in this match was by a Terra Grass something, and we see this over and over and over in our season. A lot of the rest of my season, I kept saying, I wish I had a stronger fire or flying type. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here with both Iron Moth and Salamence as very strong fire and flying types, but still, Terra Grass was something that was super common to bring against me, as was Terra Fire, because I just generally had a hard time hitting fire types. And as we'll see in the future, just fire was hard for me to handle. Excellent match to Jordan. His preparation was fantastic. His Grumpig, shout out to the Grumpig that has two attacks and is a Mirror Herb to beat every version of Poltegeist, whether I Shell Smash or I go Trick Room. Jordan, killing it. Also, Jordan teaches me here about very important speed tiers. This eel had just enough speed to outspeed, all of my things were 90 because I wasn't investing in speed on my base 70s here. Base 70, no speed, base 70, no speed, and his eel is a little bit faster than me, makes all the difference. Jordan here teaches me a lot about speed investment. Week 3 was against Haxon. And this was one of the most fun sets I had played. Haxon is my best friend. Haxon is a pancake mix. A fantastic player. Drafted a really fun team. And always comes with fantastic names. We played on May the 4th. So all of his team names were Star Wars royalty. And this game was wild. There was the Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam plus Helping Hand that doesn't kill the Night Mother, the Annihilate. There was the Annihilate accidentally Final Gambiting. Xavier made this crazy play where if I don't do this and I do this, then I can Final Gambit and I can get rid of the Gothorita with the Shadow Tag, which was just in his side, thorn in his side the whole time. And it didn't work out, but then he ended up, at the end of the game, bringing in the Sliggoo. Strongest physical move on Sliggoo is Body Slam, so he's running this Curse Sliggoo Body Slam to beat a Wo-Chien. And it gets the paralysis on the Salamence, and Salamence gets paralyzed for just long enough, even after getting the Mirror Herb onto the Quiver Dance, and then suddenly the game falls apart. We made Never Tell Me the Odds jokes for a while after that. This game had a lot of really cool moments. There was a really cool thing after game 1 where there was a very tense 50-50 of who Scissor was going to bullet punch. There was a moment where I almost Giga impacted into the Volcarona, and then I realized maybe that's not the best move, but would have been cool. This was the first week where we had Gothorita, and Gothorita with the Shadow Tag was just really annoying to deal with. Gothorita with no attacks was also a little less annoying to deal with. The Reflect super mattered as his 4th move, but maybe it would have been better as Psychic. Who knows? And then the Bellibolt wearing the specs for once, not the only time he wears the specs, but the first time he wears the specs, and doesn't actually come to the matchup because once you look at his team, you realize that he's very specially bulky, and this Bellibolt really doesn't do a ton into his team. So, one of the crazy things about this is Bellibolt has like 109 base HP, and Final Gambit and Annihilate has 110 base HP, so he kills any Bellibolt, but the Greedent had 120, so it wouldn't die, so I had to make sure that I brought the Greedent. Ooh. Fantastic game. We laughed a lot this game, and ended tragically for me, but it ended up being fine. Week 4 might have been my most successful match, where I saw someone do a weakness policy earthquake thing, and I said, ooh, I wonder how fast I can go. I wonder how hard I can hit with my team. And I came up with this plan. So Bellibolt hits really hard. If you haven't learned that by now, then you should watch some of my videos. Bellibolt hits really hard. And one of the reasons is charge, whether it's through Electromorphosis, the move charge, or Wind Power on Kilowattrel, doubles the power of your next electric move, even if it's something dumb like Thunder Wave, then it wastes it. But double power is a ton, right? So I said, what's the best way that I can abuse this? And I found the Happy Feet on Rosetta, getting the Trailblaze into Terra Water Jelly Belly, who then will Thunderbolt into the Light Screen Armor Rouge and get the full KO because I'm basically quadruple attack after one weakness policy. The double special attack, the charge, just get him. It was super fun. I also had the Bulldoze option, so I don't have to Terra the Jelly Belly. You go Bulldoze on the Salamence. I think this was Terra Dragon for the Draco Meteor reasons to get the... See, it's something, but this very reasonably could have been Terra Ground. And I had 2 ways to trigger the weakness policy myself, which felt really, really cool. And it worked really well. It just got him. It did so good. I was super proud of Bellibolt this game. The matchup, the prep was really hard. There were a lot of things that KCX had that were faster than me and slower than me, which we'll talk about this later. But my speed tiers were super duper weird on this team. So what if I just didn't and I just did all the stuff and I just came and get you? And it worked out. Turns out it was fine. Again, we see the Gotharita with the Shadow Tag, and then we finally bring out the Swords Dance Last Resort Greedent. There were Trick Room threats, so I'm like, I'm gonna bring the Greedent, and I'm gonna hit super duper hard. And I don't think it made it to the field because he did have double Ghost type. He had Dragapult, Mischievous. Yuck. But I did. Did I bring him? I'll watch the tape back. But the thing I remember about this match was just hitting super duper hard with the Bellibolt, and suddenly, wait a second, I'm dead. Felt great. Week 5 against Sukaba was tragic. So this was Baxcalibur plus Glamora plus Great Tusk, all sitting at that 87, 86 speed, plus Tailwind. Very, very scary. And I brought my Tailwind, because you'll see I didn't actually bring Trick Room here. A lot of his team was faster than mine, and I should probably go Trick Room, right? And it turns out that my Mons just weren't providing enough pressure when I was under Trick Room, and I went the other way. I'm going to go faster than you. And we had to battle our Tailwinds out. You can see in a lot of these clips he has a Tailwind up for a couple turns. And we just duked it out. I think I got a Shell Smash off in this game. I know that Bellibolt came in and did a ton of work with the choice specs, but things that I remember about this game, first off, the Yachi Berry. He had a Baxcalibur and a lot of Mons like Slowking and Ice Spinner on Great Tusk, and it turns out Icy Wind on Mismagius, where Yachi Berry was super correct on Salamence. And the Tailwind Salamence just stuck around. It had a little bit of HP investment. It had the right speed tier. It did so much work, and the Yachi Berry triggered in at least 2 games, if not all 3. That was great. The Battery Acid, another thing I remember, this thing just didn't take a hit for the whole set, at least for the game 3. This thing was super frail, super fast, max special attack, modest, plus max speed, and just was here to hit you. And I Terra Grassed it to live the Great Tusk, and he Terra Grassed again to live my Wo-Chien, which wasn't here, but Fungus was here, which was a little annoying. And then all of a sudden, the end of the game was, okay, he has a Tailwind up. My Iron Moth is slower. What am I going to do? I guess he's going down. I guess I can click Protect. And there was this really, Sukaba's video on this, his thumbnail is just a whole bunch of, the memes about thinking really hard and sweating really hard. I click on Double Protect and it works. And then later I click on Double Protect again and it works again and I win the game. I click on Double Protect, it works. I click on Overheat, it misses. And then I click on Double Protect again and it works. So chances of that, again, don't tell me the odds, but I don't know who deserved that win. I got it, but What a fun set. This one's one for the books. Worth watching back. Very technical in how it played. Shoutouts to Sawsbuck for coming as an attempt to beat Wo-Chien, but actually was a pretty good answer to the Cloister. The Terra Fire, what's it called? Sawsbuck. And the Miss Magus, which I think lived, Bullet Punch from Scizor. I think this is one of the games, there were a couple of games, like 2 or 3 of them in a row, where Scizor just goes down to some random fire coverage move, and I could have Terra Watered and it was fine, but, you know, didn't feel good. Definitely lost Scizor in one hit this game. Week 6 was also just a feels bad matchup, because the Skeledirge was so hard to beat. How am I going to beat this Skeledirge? Am I going to hit it hard? Am I going to hit it soft? Unaware? I don't know. I had cool sets on this list, like the Rocky Helmet, Battery Acid to deal with the Population Bomb. The Raichu was a huge problem. I think there was a Gyarados in this team also. This matchup just felt super insurmountable, and I don't think I won it. Because, oh look, he had the Guillotine to deal with the Rosetta, which I think I won this match, but to deal with Wo-Chien, you have to have an answer. He brought Guillotine, and then he brought the Terra Grass Skeledirge, and I just couldn't break it. This thing just sits here. I had poisoned it. Oh, right, I had the Toxic Spikes. Oh, man, I was doing some wacky stuff this set. Because I said, oh, I get the Toxic Spikes up, and then I get this, and then I get that. And that's how I'm going to beat the Skeledirge, and it just didn't quite play out. And the other thing was, I had in my head, I wanted to do some fancy plays with the Tadbulb. I wanted to bring Tadbulb and Bellibolt and do a Sucker Punch into Terra Ghost Weakness Policy Salamence to beat the Iron Valiant plus Mousehold lead, as long as he doesn't follow me. If he pop bombs, this goes super duper well. Turns out he follows me, and then the Sucker Punch fails, and everything fails, and it's just not good. And I lose the set because I brought the Gumdrop. It was a really cool concept, and I love Sucker Punch as Sucker Punch is such a cool move that is thrown around as coverage everywhere. It's really good on, like, you know, Bisharp and King Gambit and what's his name, Chien Pao, because, you know, it's a priority dark move, stab, let's get him. But you can play around it. But I like it a lot as an enabler. I'm going to enable my own weakness policy with this random Sucker Punch that's in my move pool. Poltergeist gets it too. Originally, this team was even heavier on the memes, where this was a Moxie Ment, and this was not, and this was a it was a Quick Claw Tadbulb with Reflect, so that I could Reflect up and then Earthquake, kill my own Tadbulb, get the boost on the Earthquake. But the problem with all of that was that the Earthquake wasn't picking up any key KOs on B-Braff's team. Also, the Skeledirge is also unaware. So what am I even doing here? This honestly I think was a bad prep on my part, but I had a lot of fun with this team, so I'm not mad about it. Shoutouts to Competitive. He had double Intimidate Mons in his team. He had a Stantler and a Gyarados. And I said, aha, if he brings either of those, I'm going to get the Competitive on the Gothorita and get really good Psychics and Thunderbolts into like the Gyarados. Interesting enough about the Gothorita, you think that your Shadow Tag, the Shadow Tag and the Competitive don't announce themselves, so you can be competitive and feign the Shadow Tag for a little while. This team was fun. Didn't quite get there. Bellibolt not having any special attack investment wasn't quite right, as I learned later. Dark Pulse was a nice move. Dark Pulse actually getting some offense in with the Wo-Chien. But again, I just didn't have a way to beat... Oh, bring your Terra Grass! Suddenly I can't Leech Seed. Suddenly Wo-Chien doesn't win an endgame. Again, this is one of the reasons why I stopped being a Wo-Chien believer over the course of the season. Week 7 against Furupeng. I think at this point in the season I was 3-3, and my strength of schedule, whatever it was, all of my wins were like 2-0s or something, and I was already confirmed in the finals. I was in the playoffs. And I said, well, I'm not going to sandbag the last game. I'm going to play it out like normal. I'm going to play all the games. So I built this team, and I went really hard into this matchup, and it was fantastic. the first game, the matchup was that he had Furutbang had a pretty dedicated Trick Room team. Not fully dedicated, but it was one of the few teams that was actually faster than. And it felt good to be faster than someone. Hey, look, I can go faster, or I can be slower in Trick Room. This is one of the reasons why having the Greedent at base 20 speed and having the Fungus at base 15 speed under his Amoonguss at base 30, and the Iron Hands at like 50, I think. It was cool to have actually the slowest thing. And the question is my Trick Room good enough? I went with the Belly Drum, which I think was, in hindsight, a little bit incorrect. I went with the Facade, which also I was expecting some sort of a Will-O-Wisp out of the Mimikyu or something. Didn't quite work out. And this matchup was not a shoo-in. I think that I had a lot more trouble in this matchup than I really needed to have, but I outplayed Furutbang, I think, really, really well. I outpredicted him on a lot of his moves. I said, yes, here comes the Draco. I'm going to switch in Scissor. And I go, here comes the Flamethrower coverage. I'm going to Terra Fire. And all of that felt really, really good. And over time, I just picked... My play in this was super precise. I knew where my threats were. I knew which of my threats had to kill which of his threats. And I made it happen, and I executed. And it was great. Shoutouts to Terra Psychic Greedent, which is... Terra Psychic is not a thing that you see a lot, but between the Psychic Fangs, expecting some sort of screens, Psychic Fangs also dealing very well with Iron Hands, Terra Psychic kind of was nice. After the final sets, we go into the playoffs, and I think that this set here was my favorite set of the season. This was against Purple Rain, who I've gotten to know really well over the course of the season. He's an excellent builder, an excellent player. I remember looking at his team being like, I don't quite get it, and then he would show me every single week some crazy thing he's doing with it. And I'd go, I don't know, and he would show me and go, wow, that was insane. I would never have built or played it that way. His perspectives were excellent on how to approach a matchup. So I took this matchup very, very seriously. And the first thing that I did was, well, this Indeedee... My Scizor always threatens the Flutter Mane unless he brings in Indeedee, which means that I need to have a Scizor that deals with the Flutter Mane under Psychic Terrain. And I brought this really weird Scizor. It felt super odd to do no Protect, double Steel attack, just to handle this Flutter Mane. And it super duper worked. In Game 1, I Terra the Scizor, and I live the Mystical Fire. In Game 2, I Terra the Salamence, and I live the Moonblast. And everything goes kind of according to plan. There's this wonderful moment where the Cloyster outspeeds the Flutter Mane because it's Scarf, but doesn't outspeed the Hydreigon because it's also Scarf, and I go, oh no, what do I do? There's a moment where Wo-Chien comes in against the Terragrass Donphan, and he's running Fissure, and I go, oh, there's another Terragrass Oko move. This is how you deal with the Wo-Chien. Should have seen it coming. And I bench Wo-Chien for the rest of the series, and it was super correct. And between... Oh, and then the Dragon Dance. Oh my god. There was a moment where I was sunk. My Tailwind was running out, and all of a sudden I couldn't make it happen, and... Then I click on Dragon Dance, and my Salamence is exactly EV'd. My speed EVs were so good this week. My Salamence was exactly EV'd to beat the Flutter Mane, and it made the series. I played this super well. I prepped for this super well. Shoutouts to Purple Rain. Shoutouts to everyone that's helping me build this season. Electric suggested the Citrus Berry. Electric helped me build this team a lot, but the Jordan has helped me build teams. Poppin' Fresh has helped me build teams. Obviously, Pancake Mix. Obviously, Purple Rain. Sukaba's helped me out a little bit with some teams. So many people have helped me level up my game, and this was, I think, the most amazing culmination of all of that. So many people helping me, and me just leveling up as a player. Also, I was super afraid to be Moxie. I was nervous to not be Intimidate. Intimidate's a good safety thing of my Salamence, and turns out that Moxie was right here. And in Game 3, I made it work, and I made the Dragon Dance work, and everything worked out. And the Citrus Berry made me live a very important hit. And look at me, I'm like, yeah, I'm Moxie. Hey, I'm Moxie in today. So this was a really cool set. I'll remember this one a lot. I'm glad that this one happened. Yeah, and then I move on to the next round. And then this is where it doesn't, where I lose in the, what is the semifinals of the physical conference, top 8 of the full thing. I don't know. I lost a game and I'm out. And I think that this set was super duper close. I think that anyone had, this game ended up being like 90 minutes, like over 60 minutes certainly. The video was 90 minutes, but this was such a technical game about positioning, about threat assessment. Me realizing that the Cerule Edge, that my Iron Moth can't deal with the Cerule Edge. Me finding this Dragonite Iron Treads lead and just being like, I'm just gonna Shell Smash in front of that. Me using Frisk for the first and only time to figure out some key items, the weakness policy, the focus sash, and not capitalizing on it as well as I could. But honestly, in this mid to end game, the Dragonite just swinging outrages around, and me not being able to commit to... I kept trying to be cute. I kept trying to like click on a button and get a Pollen Puff in, get one kill, slow it down a little bit, and Dragonite just was like, nope, we're not going to slow it down. We're going to keep hitting you. Chien-Pao Dragonite. Just keep going fast. And I could have recognized that and tried to go a little faster myself. Clicked on the foul plays into the Cerule Edge more, clicked on Pollen Puffs into the Chien-Pao, deal with the Dragonite before it hits me a whole bunch. And honestly, I Thunder Waved this Dragonite on turn 1 and I missed. Or turn 2. Yeah, turn 1 with the Scizor because I pounced the Rotom of game 3. I pounced the Rotom, get the speed control, I Thunder Wave the Dragonite, and I miss. And all of a sudden, the match kind of falls apart. If I hit the Thunder Wave, if anything happens, then the game could have gone a little differently. Fantastic game, and good luck to Raymond. I don't think he's actually played his next match at the time of this recording, but this game was super technical and positional, and a great clinic for me to kind of realize when the flow of a game needs to shift to be like, well, I guess we're going a little faster now. So those are all the matches I played there. I played nine official matches, and I want to split those up instead of having, each match. I want to look at each Pokemon individually and what they did. And generally looking at some of the memes that came out of this year. I'm real proud of this one because Belly really took my heart. And we'll see that Bellibolt came to a lot of games this season. Again, in order of draft pick. We'll see all 9 games, which we just kind of reviewed, and if you go back, you can see all of these sets and which games each Mon came to. Wo-Chien is meant to be built defensively, and as we see, I was always max HP on this Mon. I don't think I ran a ton of speed in this, maybe just this week or over here because I wanted the Trailblaze. This Mon was meant to be a wall. I ran Leech Seed most games, and I ran Leftovers, or I ran Citrus Berry here because I didn't want to die to some Chien-Pao Dragonite combination. I thought that Citrus Berry gave me a better chance of Leftovers, but Wo-Chien's goal was to sit and Leech Seed and win the game with some other supporting moves, and I don't think it did a great job on this team. What I think it did was I think it was a really tricky thing for my opponents to team build around. I think my opponents were always bringing Terra Grass things. I think my opponents were bringing Oko moves. I think my opponents were worried about the Wo-Chien and how am I going to deal with it? Will I taunt it? Will I Terra Grass in front of it? Will I kill it with some bug coverage move? We're probably going to Terra it. It often commanded my Terra and was really hard to figure. I couldn't lead it. I never really wanted to lead it because it doesn't do anything in the front position. I don't think I quite figured out how to use a Wo-Chien after this season. I figured out kind of his impact. He's very good on a draft, but he is manageable. If you respect him, then he doesn't beat you, kind of. I don't know. I also think that maybe I just didn't support him well enough on my team. I think that Poppin' Fresh had a much better success with Wo-Chien in general because he had other threats. I think one of the things that I needed with Wo-Chien was a better answer to everything Terra grassing in front of it. Iron Moth was not quite strong enough offensively or defensively. Like, you would sit there, the Iron Moth would die because it dies in a hit or two, and suddenly Wo-Chien's on his own. He can't actually hold on to the Iron Moth. Whereas Poppin' Fresh had both the Glamora and the Skeleturge, both of which threaten grass types and have a little bit of bulk in them. And are special threats, whereas the Salamence is only special sometimes. It's always special, but it's only specially oriented sometimes. Not to mention the Cloister. Physical doesn't want to stand next to Wo-Chien and hit grass types. Will die to a slight breeze in the special side. So, again, Wo-Chien does a lot of work, but he really wasn't the end game. Like, I really wanted to rely on him as an end game game winner, but he wouldn't get there. So, my verdict on Wo-Chien is that he kind of underperformed. But part of that might be on me or the team construction. Salamence, on the other hand, did more work than I expected. I didn't bring him to... I brought him to 7 out of the 9 games. He had a different item every single week, and that wasn't like a meme. That was just kind of what happened. When we went back to the first slide and talked about versatility, oh my god, Salamence really was that versatile threat. I can see physical sets, I can see special sets, I can see tailwinds, I can see combo sets between the Bulldoze with the weakness policy on the Bellibolt, or the meme weakness policy with the Tadbulb, which again started as a Moxie idea. Salamence always ended up with the flying move because I didn't really have another good flying type, and I kind of needed that flying type. I needed that flying coverage to handle the grass type, so he always ended up having his flying move. And I think that was a ding on me. That was a miss on me for my team building skills. I think that having a better, more solid flying move with like a Brave Bird Mon just floating around would have alleviated some of the move slots on Salamence. We also see that he tailwinded a couple times, and it was important, especially in the Sukaba game. Scizor also had Tailwind, but a thing that I saw is that my team was often slower than my opponents, and instead of going to Trick Room, I decided to go faster, which we can see a lot of speed investment on the Salamence to kind of account for that. 100 base speed is nice into Hydreigon and not nice into Garchomp, take that as you will. We've been looking at this Dragon type forever, hence Hold Fashioned. Nothing super surprising there. Oh, look, I even had a mixed set. Look at me go. It's mixed. Verdict on Salamence was that he was fantastic. He just ended up on every team. I always felt like he almost ended up on the Week 9 playoff game as well. But he always felt like he could fill a role. He always felt like he could do something. He was always scary, and my opponents always had to respect him. So much flexibility in this Mon. Bellibolt, though, 10 points and a champion. This Mon is amazing. I say it because I love him. I love being an electric type trainer. I love having this Mon around. But man, it is a Mon that doesn't die in one hit and has actually a pretty good suite of support moves. Did I not actually get around to running Soak? I didn't actually run Soak this season. I ran Soak on the Tadbulb because Soak actually wants to be a fast move into your partner. But really cool thing about Bellibolt is that he gets this double power from Electromorphosis, which means that you can run him kind of however you want, and you always have this unusually double strong Thunderbolt at your disposal, which means that you can hit neutrally into resisted Mons and super effectively into neutral Mons. If I'm Electromorphosis, I am super happy hitting your normal type Mon, and I'm kind of okay hitting your Dragon type Haxorus. You can abuse this in a lot of ways, where You can give it a support set, and you'll see every single week I bring the Bellibolt, I put him on the field, nobody hits him because they don't want to trigger the Electromorphosis, they don't see the threat. I hit Protect on one guy, get up the Light Screen, or I get out a Volt Switch. People just don't hit the Bellibolt because it's kind of scary too. Or you can run him super offensively. If you run the choice specs, even though he's slow, he's gonna get a hit off because you actually need to focus him down to kill him. Bellibolt was a champion. And I even had, like, at the end, this super mature, look at how crazy the spread is, and the mixed special attack here, and I had the slack off, and the slack off was super duper good. Yeah, Bellibolt, I kept bringing him because he kept feeling good, and people didn't believe, and it was correct. Shoutouts to Static. I think that against the Iron Treads, Dragonite, Cerule Edge, Qianpao team, Static was the best it's ever been, and really good chances of getting those paralyses into those outrages, let's say. And maybe that would have made the difference, but Electromorphosis, double power just to get your slow Volt Switch and get twice as much power. Annoying that it wasted on the Thunder Wave, but double power on the Volt Switch is just so worth it. I don't think the game would have been significantly different if I had that Static here, but I don't know, maybe that was the call. Battery Acid came to 6 games, and this Mon surprised me. I found this Mon really restricting to use. It's really fast. Well, 110 fast. Could be booster speed, which is nice in a lot of matches, but kind of everyone has some sort of Paradox Mon floating around. It's a lot of work to get this Mon to be the fastest thing, and once it is, then it loses out a lot of special attack. I found myself not always investing in the special attack here, so that I can either get that speed or so I could focus on some other elements of Iron Moth. But the problem with it is that it gets no support moves. There's very, very little that it gets in terms of speed control unless you're willing to, like, pray for discharge paralyzes. Again, we went back to the first video that we made. There's no Tailwind, no Toxic, no Thunder Wave. This is not Regieleki. This is a Mon that clicks on Acid Spray and Heat Wave and doesn't get kills. We had the Dazzling Cleave with the Helping Hand into the max HP Annihilate, and it didn't get the kill. This Mon is threatening. It is still worth respecting if it's on the field because 140 special attack as a base is still very, very high, but it doesn't have the support moves. If I play this Mon, everything has to support it. It really can't support anything else unless you really need that extra hit. Or this Toxic Spikes. Look at me going Toxic Spikes to support everything else. Rocky Helmet to kill the mouse hold. It's nice that it gets to hold a booster energy so that it doesn't take up someone else's item slot. But really, excuse me. But really, this Mon was just okay. I really wish this was Salazzle, which got sniped, I think, a round or two before. I think if this Mon was Salazzle, I could have used the extra point balance to get a big threat. But having said all that, Iron Moth did a bunch for me. Iron Moth came to, as you can see, 6 games. It was somewhat predictable. It had a fire move and a poison move most games, and it did fine. So my verdict on Iron Moth is that it's okay, but it just doesn't have enough support to really be that versatile threat that I wanted on my team. Having said that, Scizor was possibly, other than Bellibolt, the MVP of the team. Scizor was always terrifying. It always ran Bullet Punch. It always just had a ton of power. It always died to some fire move unless I clicked on Terra Water or Terra whatever. Actually, I didn't run Terra Water nearly as much as I thought I did. Look at that. It has coverage. It has really cool coverage because it can be like Aerial Ace and Thief to get the Technician boost. Scizor is always scary. It is always here as an offensive support or as a support. Tailwind is big. Quick Guard was kind of cool. U-turn is a great thing on a slow Scizor. Here I was really excited to run the fast Scizor because sometimes base 65 speed, this made it to 128 speed, but the Focus Sash is still probably fine. Scizor was just a cornerstone of my team. Really awkward with the Wo-Chien because, again, the Tablets of Ruin making its attack weaker. But this Mon was always scary, always a threat, always needed to be respected in team building. And look at how versatile it was. I had the only repeat item here is the Life Orb once. All of these sets felt great. I think Clear Amulet's a fine option to intimidate things when you want to run the Swords Dance. Did I never run Protect? Okay, I ran Protect a couple times, but it doesn't super need Protect because a lot of the time you're clicking on Bullet Punch and you can invest into your HP. Scizor, absolute champion. Super duper Mon. Definitely worth drafting. Super steal at 13 points. I would have paid, like this one versus Wo-Chien at 16. This one did so much more work for me. There was only 2 weeks that I didn't bring it, and just sometimes it feels like it always has the option for the matchup, and if it doesn't, then it's fine. But Bullet Punch is just always kind of a good move when coming off of Technician and Scizor. Fungus was he underperformed for me. A lot of my games were if I could get a Shell Smash up with either Cloyster or Poltergeist, most often Cloyster, then I'm going to be fine. And I can go Cloyster plus Fungus, and I can do it. And it'll be great. But the problem was, everyone was already bringing Terra Grass for Wo-Chien. Suddenly, I had no incentive to bring this Mon because it wouldn't do anything. It really needs to run Rage Powder and Spore. It really kind of doesn't want to run Clear Smog or anything, but those are its 2 best moves, and they're both just kind of blocked by Grass Mons, and they're blocked by Safety Goggles. I did fish out, I think, 3 or 4 Safety Goggles throughout the season, which was great, and because of the composition of my team in general, you know, things on my team threaten Grass types, but not enough to say that, well, just a Terra Grass on my key defensive Mon that I want to go long, the Donphan, the what's it called, the Skeleturge. Just having Terra Grass means that it beats the Wo-Chien and the Fungus. That's worth it. So the whole point of Fungus was I can draft it, and then it's going to suck up some of my opponent's resources even when I don't bring it. And I think that's fine. I think it did a fine job at that. Here it is supporting the Cloyster. And here it is supporting the Cloyster. That kind of was its job. But here it overlapped with the Wo-Chien, and the Bellibolt wasn't doing it any favors. And here, oh, there was the Sawsbuck. The Sawsbuck was designed to get around the Fungus, and Terra Grass things, like, oh, if Terra Grass, Great Tusk, or Terra Grass, and whatever it was, he had it. I remember we looked at the recap. Bringing Fungus to the matchup was a great idea, but if I bring Fungus to the game, to the 4, I would have been punished by it. So, verdict on Fungus is that I do think he did his job. I spent 8 points on him, and he gave me a redirect option. I think he gave me a... He bought me a couple items because of the Safety Goggles on my opponents, which was really nice. But at the end of the day, Fungus overlapped too much with Wo-Chien to be a worthwhile member of the team. More than just 2 games, and more than just as a Cloyster support. I think something that I want to focus on for a future season is having a more versatile redirector. Something like Indeedee or Pachirisu that can come out and actually provide a service to the team, maybe the mouse hold. Threaten the Pop Bomb, provide the safety of Psychic Terrain, get Nuzzles and Super Fangs. And I don't quite understand Spore. I don't quite understand, you know, attack into protects or something in Spore. I don't quite understand when to click on Spore, and I didn't get a whole lot better at it this season. But, you know, one day. Greedent. Greedent, I think I lost a little bit of faith in him as the season went along, because he always needs to click a setup move. But I did love having the Trick Room threat. Once I picked up Gothorita as a second Trick Room setter, as a bulky Trick Room setter, Greedent became a much more viable option as a Trick Room threat, and he served his purpose. He has unique stats and abilities, and he's a really good setup mon. If you can click on the boosting move that you have, whether it's Stuffed Cheeks or Belly Drum or Sword Stance, then he can go to town. I think Belly Drum is greedy though. I think that Belly Drum is too much of an HP investment on this really slow mon. I think Snorlax is good at it. I think Azumaro's fine at it, but sometimes Sword Dance is just better. Hence this one right here, which wasn't as good because he brought 2 Ghost Pokemon. I think that this mon is still worth drafting at 7 points. I still think it's worth drafting as, hey, you've got a Trick Room mode, I've got an answer for it because I'm actually slower. But what's really annoying about this mon compared to like Torkoal is if you want to like use him in Trick Room mode, you have to have a turn where you click on Trick Room plus a setup move. And that leaves your team wide open for anything, right? It's really hard to click on both Stuffed Cheeks and Trick Room in the same move, or Sword Stance, and just put on no pressure for a second while your opponent gets to do their setup or just wails on you. Greedent is okay at it, I guess, because if you hit him, he heals back a ton with the Citrus Berry or whatever other berry that you intend to eat. But a lot of times I would find myself not wanting to click on Trick Room plus move, and it would feel a little weird. So Greedent, ton of power, totally worth the 7 points, totally a good Trick Room threat option, but hard to use in your own dedicated Trick Room mode. Teatame, the Poltegeist, was... Honestly, I'm surprised I brought it to 5 games. This mon has great stats. They look kind of like Iron Mots, but a little lower. It has a really strong Shadow Ball. It has Trick Room and 2 okay abilities. Weak Armor is fine if you want to go fast, and Trick Room is Curse Body is okay if you want to go slow. Curse Body was actually relevant in a couple games. Unfortunately, Teatame's biggest weakness is this 70 speed. I had 4 70 speed mons, and then I dropped one for Gothorita between Wochien, between Teatame, between Cloyster, and the Morgrem. And that really held it back. If it was a really fast mon, like, I know the Chandeler's not that fast, but like Blacephalon or Gengar, you know, then you can actually threaten things with this Shadow Ball. Or the Will-O-Wisp. This was the only Will-O-Wisp that I had on my team. Again, Iron Moth doing me no favors. So what am I doing with this base 70 speed Will-O-Wisp? Burning something after it already obliterated me? I think that I drafted Poltegeist as a Trick Room setter, but what I really should have been drafting it as was a Ghost type. And it's not a good Ghost type for the things I needed it to do because of this 70 speed. I will say that there are a couple of matchups where Super Duper had a niche. The ally switched with the safety goggles to beat the Amoonguss, the Colbur Berry, and this super defensive spread to always get Trick Room up against the Hydreigon. But the Terra Blast was here to be Terra Normal, just to be a regular Terra Blast because it was the best move we had into the Hydreigon. What am I going to imprison at a base 70 speed? Yeah, like all of this just doesn't quite work on a base 70 speed Ghost type. Honestly, I don't think I used this mon to its full potential, and I just didn't believe in it. The belief factor on this mon wasn't quite there for me, and I let Teatame down as much as it let me down, but did it get any kills? I don't think it got any kills. I didn't smash it. I didn't shell smash because it's also kind of predictable. Again, not a whole lot of versatility. Once you smash with it, it's going to click on Giga Drain and Shadow Ball. It doesn't get Dazzling Gleam. It doesn't. There's some nice coverage moves that you would want it to get that it does not get. You're really reliant on the Shadow Ball and your base 134 special attack. And you can't really run a choice specs because, again, base 70 speed, you have to support it really, really hard. The weak armor, really not really doing it on the base 60-65 HP in defense. Fine for 8 points, but the reason I needed the trade for the Gotharita. Cloyster, on the other hand, outperformed all of my expectations. Cloyster was a champion. This is a mon that needed support or really, really good positioning, but paid off huge. You can see I shell smashed it 3 times, but I scarfed it this time, and I think I could have explored the scarf option a little bit more. I think it's even worth having explored a band option at one point. Important note, choice scarf, max speed Jolly hits 138 speed, or something like that, which when scarfed hits 201 speed, which is like Fluttermane and base 135s are 205. So even Choice Scarf max speed isn't faster than Fluttermane, which was super relevant, maybe. All this to say, it turns out that a ice move that never misses and hits 5 times. Shout out to the Rotom that I one-shot in the playoffs in this game here against Ray. It was like almost max defense and a Citrus Berry, and I just went right through it with Icicle Spears. Rock Blast is a great coverage move, even though it kind of misses sometimes. It has a priority move, it has Liquidation, it has Icy Wind, which is the only Icy Wind that I had, which wasn't great, but I ran the Icy Wind with the Choice Scarf. It was an option. This Cloyster was incredible. For 6 points, just 6 points, it really provided me this real win condition that I really wanted to utilize in some of my games. As long as it doesn't get hit with a special move, again, in this match especially, if you can position this thing right, it took like an Outrage and a Bitter Blade in the same move and under Tablets of Ruin with Wo-Chan and just lived on 7. It was incredible. With no bulk. 180 defenses turns out is a ton. Sometimes I almost ran Impish on this. Adamant Jolly. Yeah, Impish. Just because another 10%, another 20 points of defense is just worth it. Things that didn't come up include Overcoat and Shell Armor. I didn't actually run those because Icicle Spear is that good, but it does get Icicle Crash, it does get Ice Spinner, it does get Ice Shard and Liquidation. There are super... I definitely was running a lot of Assault Vest calculations, Assault Vest sets with Overcoat into the Amoonguss and Shell Armor. Shell Armor is less relevant, but definitely possible for some sort of... If you can figure out that you want to do a life do thing. I think it gets Iron Defense, but not Body Press. But again, it's special defense is the thing you need to worry about. But yeah, Cloyster, what a champion. Cloyster really came through for me in all of these matches. And when Cloyster was on the field, it was a threat and the thing threatening to win me the game. Morgan only came to 1 game, but I think it did its job. It was here as a light screen bot and just a damage reduction with Prankster, which I think was great. I think that it did its job into a very specially heavy matchup. I think that if I had this mon later on in the series in various games, then Morgan would have given me a really good defensive option in light screens, in parting shots, better pivots. But I learned a lot that my team doesn't really want to pivot. Like, I don't want to switch out my mon into my Scizor and take the Scizor take a reduced hit. Maybe Ironmoth could, but then he's kind of weak. My team wasn't quite bulky enough to handle the parting shot of the Morgan. And unlike Grimmsnarl, Morgan never really could threaten kills. I guess it could if I felt like it with Sucker Punches, and I think it has Play Rough or something, but it never felt like quite... Oh, yeah, base 60 attack? Like, come on, maybe Dazzling Gleam? This never felt right. And it wasn't providing me enough utility, even though it was doing it at Prankster speed. So I did trade it for the Gotharita, which comes here. I put it here. Gotharita still gave me the fake out that I was looking for, still was the Eviolite Mon. It was actually a little bit bulkier. 60, 70, 85 versus 65, 45, 55. Tons bulkier. This Mon lived so many hits that it just had no business living. This thing was taking 3-hit KOs all day long. Base 75 attack isn't a ton, but when you give it a bit of investment and you give it competitive, then suddenly it starts picking up Okos on key mons. This Thunderbolt for the Gyarados, or the Psychic for the Iron Valiant. This was for something, with a competitive into the grass. Which week was this? This one? Oh, into the water type. I think this was water Tauros. Maybe it was fire Tauros. Point is, Gothorita was a champion. Gothorita lived so many hits. It had offensive threats. It had a very unique combination of Fake Out and Trick Room, which was the reason to draft it. This thing doesn't die. It gets Fake Out and Trick Room, and a bunch of good support moves. It gets Tickle. It gets Thunder Wave. It gets Helping Hand and the screen. You can run the thing as a screen setter, even though it's slow. Gets Foul Play if you don't want to invest in the attack of it. Look at me running Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, and Thunderbolt just on this support mon for 11 points. Gothorita was a champion. Shoutouts to I forget who it was. Was it James or something? There was definitely someone that I talked to about like, hey, how do you feel about Gothorita? And then I got the whole Steve Monty Scott. Yeah, Steve Monty Scott gave me a whole bunch of advice on Gothorita, and it super duper paid off because I picked this mon and I brought it to most of the games that I had it for. Yeah, Gothorita felt great. Draft this mon. And finally, Tadbulb. I did bring it once. I think that Tadbulb is not a good Pokemon. I think it's just a smaller Bellibolt. It has the same move pool, but I did run it alongside Bellibolt here, week 6. So I ran it with the Bellibolt. Bellibolt was slow. Gumdrop was super duper fast and intended to set off the weakness policy. I was having fun. I was doing silly things. And I don't know if I would draft. Even in the 1 slot, I think Shellos was a 1 slot. I think Pichu and Diglett were 1 slots. I think Ghastly was a 1 slot. I know I like my draft being wide, and I know I really shouldn't be complaining about my 1 drop draft mon, 1 point draft mon. And I think that having the mascot and the mini mascot was worth it. I think I want to spend my points a little bit better next time. Not to say that this is a waste, and I did use it, but you know, Gumdrop didn't quite. He wasn't quite that great. Now that we've talked about the team, I want to talk a little briefly about these are some old slides again from the previous thing. From the previous the pre-season analysis video. How did this feel? Did this come out to how did this come to pass? Did I run Wo-Chien and special attackers? I honestly don't think that I did. I think that Wo-Chien was its own intended its own end game, and very rarely was I comfortable like leading Wo-Chien plus Bellibolt, Wo-Chien plus anybody. I don't think I ever led Wo-Chien. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I could have done some Wo-Chien lead Snarl things. I could have done Wo-Chien lead light screen Wo-Chien things. And a big problem with that was my special attackers didn't have the support, the speed control. And a lot of my mons were middling and low speed. Base 70s all around, base 65, base 45, only base 100 on the Salamence, and 110 isn't all that much when you're looking at some super ultra fast threats, and this mon can't really support anything. Wo-Chien was not here to support special attackers, as you see. He was here to be an endgame threat. So I think I could have done a little bit better with the Wo-Chien, but that's old news. Having said that, Tailwind Hyper Offense, oh man. So many times I did calc saying, well, if I double my speed, then I'm faster than you. Oh, I can put a couple of speed points in, and when I double it, Cloyster was built to outspeed Scarf Rotom. I had Scizors, and the Scizor and the Salamence in my top in the first playoff game against Purple Rain. They were perfectly EV'd to outspeed the Flutter Mane when under Tailwind or whatever, or a +1 for the Salamence. Oh yeah. Tailwind Hyper Offense, even with this slow team, Turns out double speed is enough, but not like to get all the way up there, but to get enough there. In the Trick Room, I think that I felt like I was bringing a subpar team when I brought, Teatame, Safety First, and Giancarlo. I think that I picked up the Gothorita so I could threaten Trick Room on my slow team even when I'm not bringing all my slow mons. I think that the Greedent was too much of a setup requirement to click on my own Trick Room buttons, and when I had him, I didn't expect my opponent to click on the Trick Room button. Like, who's going to click Trick Room into Greedent, who's presumably about to belly drum? It didn't quite work out. I think I could have used the Fungus a little better, but again, it stepped on the Wo-Chien's toes. And the Trick Room mode, this wasn't it. It was really close, and it did things. Like, honestly, Bellibolt, you put Bellibolt down here and you just treat this base 45 as a Trick Room mon. Maybe you find a base 70 mon or the Scizor, put that in Trick Room. You're ready to go. That's the way to do it. Setup threats. Some of these were super good setup threats, especially the Cloyster. And the support for it was there, but not super premium. Honestly, my setups when it happened, be it the Salamence with the Dragon Dance, the Cloyster with the Shell Smash, happened because of good positioning and awareness more than support. There was the time that the Cloyster got to live because of the Wo-Chien, but I lost that game anyway. So, live and learn. And then the memes. I think our memes were fantastic. I think this was a great team for some memes. I think that I'll find some other memes in the future with some other stuff. But again, I'll keep making some excellent meme content for all of these teams. Final thoughts. How did it feel? I loved it. I think that this team felt fantastic. I think it achieved the goals that I set out to do, having a wide, versatile team, using a bunch of different Pokemon in a bunch of versatile ways. I had good success. I won a bunch of games. I made it to the playoffs. I had a lot of surprises. I had a lot of surprise victories. I had a lot of prep that paid off. I think I improved a ton as a player. I think that this team was not simple to use. There was no easy button like, just bring out Chien-Pao Dragonite. Not to say that that's an easy button, but there's no obvious combination of two Mons on this team that my opponents could prepare for. And therefore, my opponents had to really prepare for the entire thing. They always had to bring a Wo-Chien counter. Like, after you watch enough of my games, you realize that, okay, you bring a Grass type, you bring a Fire type, suddenly I can't hit this, I can't hit that. People have not learned to respect the Bellibolt, but, they'll learn eventually, or they'll die to it. Team felt great. I always felt like I had the tools to handle any matchup. That was the other thing. I really felt like I had the options to handle whatever matchup was thrown at me. What could have been better? I think that I could have gone a little bit taller. I think that if the Iron Moth, or maybe even the not the Bellibolt, but like the Wo-Chien or something, if there was some sort of easy threat, like if there was one big threatening Mon that was a thing I could build around regularly, I wanted that to be Wo-Chien, and it just kind of wasn't it. What could have been better? Also, I think shoutouts to Fletchender. There was a big moment in the season when I really considered. First, I traded the Morgrem for the Gothorita, and I also considered trading the Poltegeist at 8 points for the Fletchender at 8 points. And I think that would have been super good for the team for 4 reasons. One, it is another form of speed control, but at priority speed, especially after losing the Morgrem. It is a fire and flying Pokemon. It is a Mon that has that Brave Bird threat to handle the grass types that I was talking I want to handle. Oh, I'm going to run my Fletchender with Overheat today because, it's enough to kill a Terra Grass Donphan. I think that having this Poltegeist be the Fletchender would have been huge for a lot of my matchup. And I think that's one of the reasons I was kind of salty at the Poltegeist, is that I never really found the courage to pull the trigger on it. And I think that the Fletchender would have been a better choice. Oh, also, it would have had a faster Will-O-Wisp. I think I think Fletchinder is still around that base 70 speed, but it's got a much more consistent tailwind. And suddenly, I would have had another scary mode on my team that you would have had to plan for. Granted, it would be 1, 2, 3 mons that all want to share the Eviolite, but I don't think Fletchinder takes Eviolite more often than not. Jury's out on whether or not Fletchinder would have been better, but that's a trade I considered a lot during the season. But again, having one stronger threat, like the Iron Moth just never felt like it killed the thing. The Salamence never felt like it killed the thing. The Bellibolt did, the Scizor did, but these two didn't quite feel like they killed the thing outright. And I wish I was a little bit taller in my draft, just a little bit. The Cloyster felt like it killed the thing. But again, I think everything here was fine. Oh, also my type chart was a little weird. My water type was Cloyster. It was a little odd. Once I realized that my Fire, Water, Grass was Cloyster, Wo-Chien, Iron Moth, and it just felt icky. Like, none of this felt like a good defensive core that really handled stuff well. They all stepped in each other's toes. They didn't support each other super well. I think I want to look at a better Fire, Water, Grass core next season, as well as a better Fairy type. Granted, there weren't a lot of Fairy types to choose from at all, but I definitely felt like there were a couple of things where I didn't have quite the perfect coverage for a match, but, Bellibolt with an Electromorphosis Thunderbolt just is enough. Finally, who do I believe in now? That's what these colored boxes are. The green mons, I super believe in. Salamence, Bellibolt, Scizor, Cloyster, Gothorita, A+ in my book. Those guys, every time I brought them on a team, I slapped them on. They felt good, they felt scary, they felt threatening. Wo-Chien, Iron Moth, Greedent, Morgrem felt okay, felt like they needed support. Felt like they had flaws that were easily exploitable or something that they weren't quite bringing enough to the table. And then Fungus, Poltegeist, and then to a lesser extent the Tadbulb. I'd give it the dotted line because it's, the 1-point mascot mon. Didn't quite pull their weight, and I think part of that is the way that I used those mons. I could have been a little bit better and respected those mons a little bit more, maybe looked at them in a different light, or maybe they just weren't what I wanted them to be. 8 points each, not the end of the world. Anyway, thanks. I've been CoDameron. This has been the Boca Raton Bellibolts. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching the videos. Or if you haven't been, that's also fine. I make these videos because I love them. I make these videos because I want people to be able to go back and see what high-level thought about, hopefully high-level thought about Pokemon in competitive games looks like. And I am excited for the next one. Again, thanks again to everyone who made content alongside me and everyone who supported me throughout this season. Shout out to everyone at the VBL, and we'll see you all for the next one. Peace.